Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name's Matthew Conlon, and you can find me at Berserker Unit. There should be some text on the screen right now. If you want to follow me on Twitter, or Exile Productions, Exile_Productions if you want to follow me on Instagram. Talking about Dragon Ball stuff, we're finishing up our Janemba fight. Sorry for the shaky camera, I'm knocking the table around. Yeah, so when we left off, Janemba had just absorbed all of Broly's, let's call it negative energy, leaving him debilitated. He was falling from the sky, and Janemba used that energy to somehow refine himself, transform into his smaller, more deadly, I'll call it Red Janemba form. And then we go straight in from here. Hope you enjoy the climax of my Broly and Cheelai Spin-off series set of videos inspired by MasakoX. See you at the end. So Broly has fallen. He feels completely tapped out and without energy. Janemba starts talking to him, references how he had been caged by his father, restrained, prevented from doing what he was born to do. And then he references to Broly. I like a sort of serpenty voice for this Janemba. Maybe something low and hissy, almost like a whisper. Like, you were created as well, were you not? Given a purpose by the one that made you. And now here you are, incapable of fulfilling it. Surely you understand how I feel. And Broly is not about that. He didn't like what his father did to him. He did not feel like he was created for a purpose. And so he starts to get very angry, because that's what Broly does. Even though he felt drained before, he feels this resurgence of anger. It's very primal, almost instinctual, and he stands up. His hair starts to grow out again in that sort of 80s metal style. And that's a result of the semi-rehabilitation from his fight with Jiraiya. But all of his wrath and primal fighting doesn't really mean anything to this Janemba. Red Janemba's too fast, too strong, too wily. And so he's just dancing around. He's totally toying with Broly, and he keeps peppering him with insults and prodding him. Meanwhile, Zolgorgon and Lemmo are having a conversation on Zolgorgon's ship while Cheelai is piloting. And Zolgorgon's like, we should do something to help. And Lemmo's response is, what, are you kidding? The kid down there can just take out half the planet. We'd just be in the way. He doesn't have anything to worry about. Cheelai remains silent during this time. So Janemba keeps carrying on, talking about how he was created to absorb all of this negative emotion in the universe, and that the universe would be a much better place if you were allowed to just consume all of these bad feelings, that mortals are happier when they don't feel bad about stuff. Seems kind of obvious, kind of relatable. Like, why wouldn't we want things that way? And, you know, he says, even now you're so filled with rage, so full of anger. You should just let me eat that too. And so then we cut to inside of Broly's mind, where he feels like he's just fighting on autopilot, and he looks around, and the only thing he can make out are memories of his father, Paragus. Paragus is telling him, avenge us! Use that hate and bitterness to fuel you. Destroy your enemies. And Broly just feels like he's drowning in that darkness. It just keeps building up and welling up around him. And the more it does, the larger he gets. He can't transform completely into an Ozaru because he doesn't have the tail. That was a big thing. but he does continue to get bigger and bigger, but he's incapable of actually ascending to Super Saiyan or better. So it's just this sort of weird Ozaru channeled form with his big 80s metal hair. And Janemba just keeps getting back to him. It's like, just give it up, let it go, be at peace. And, you know, Broly does those mouth blasts and he's just deflecting them. He's like, look, you're a born destroyer. What would your creator think if he saw you now, performing exactly as intended? And that's it. He's still just toying with this monstrous Broly figure. Broly, for his part, can't really do anything about it because he's still sort of trapped inside his own head. And again, he really feels like he's just drowning in that well of darkness inside himself. It might be like the primal id, but he sees a light and he starts to reach out for it. And as it gets closer and closer, outside, Janemba's taking more advantage. He's getting closer and closer to just finishing Broly off. And you can see here that Broly has grown to this immense size. He's probably twice as tall as Red Janemba is right now. Red Janemba has his crazy sword. He's just going to run it right through Broly's head. Maybe it has some sort of almost Psylocke-esque Psy scrambling ability or something. It might not necessarily just kill him. So Broly's on the verge of dying. We cut back to the ship. Lemmo is, you know, watching the fight. Zolgorgon's watching the fight, and Lemmo's like, he just needs to get angrier. And that's when Cheelai speaks up, and she's like, you guys don't know what you're talking about. Like, anger is not where Broly's strength comes from. Broly has more of something than anybody else in the universe. And she calls it goodness or purity. And she says he needs to learn how to fight with that. And as Broly's reaching towards that light, he starts to see something. He gets a clear view, a clear idea of what it must have been like for Janemba. He was given a particular task, and then he did that job. And then he was locked away. And he remembers how his father had really prioritized him being powerful and his power level, and then put that shock collar on him. And so as Broly's reaching for that light, he starts to think of the first time that he felt something trigger inside himself that was a different kind of appreciation for his power. The first time he felt a power that was challenging without being oppressive. It was something that was full of pride instead of necessity or insecurity. And that's Vegeta when he became Super Saiyan God when they first met. And so that sort of sparks something in Broly, and he realizes that he can channel his anger the same way Vegeta did. And so he stands up and he keeps his giant 80s metal hairdo, but it starts to puff out Super Saiyan style. It turns red. He gets a fiery aura, and that's pretty much it. Broly defeats Janemba from there out. It would be a huge slugfest. There would be reality shattering involved, but the key is that when he realizes that Super Saiyan God power is a sort of righteous anger, that's something that Janemba can't feed on. Janemba can't read his moves anymore because he doesn't sense the negative emotions associated with them, because they've been channeled properly. Broly realizes that he empathizes with Janemba. He recognizes that feeling that you were raised to do something very specific and then simultaneously told that doing it was bad. The confusion and the frustration, and the feeling also that he was a tool created by, in Janemba's case, created by a creator deity, he the product of his father. And so he wants that that power that he's experiencing right now, the same power that he experienced from Vegeta, he wants it to be a light for Janemba to sort of bring him out of his own darkness, that the same way it helped bring Broly out of his just moments before. And maybe he'll show up again. Maybe he'll run afoul of Frieza. Lots of directions that could go. I recently tweeted to MasakoX about what could have made Broly so powerful. I'm not a huge fan of genetic memory. Maybe it would be more interesting to think of Broly as hypersensitive, like a really potent empath. And so as a child, he's in that tank, he's being poked and prodded, and his psyche is interpreting all of that psychological trauma, all of the fear, the sense of the unknown, the dread, that great empathy, his ability to feel emotion is being read by his body as trauma, the same way punches, kicks, stabbings, and explosions would be. And so because his body reads emotional trauma the same way it reads physical trauma, he's basically just getting continuous Zenkai boosts. I thought that would be an interesting direction to go. It would also mean that Broly, this individual who has been so put upon by his environment, his father, Frieza, etc., all of those things, he would still have that innate capacity for good, because he would still be able to look at his opponent and try and feel what they're feeling. He had fallen, he was going to lose, but he recognized in Janemba something that he could identify with, and that let him respond and recall something that gave him the strength to go forward, which turned out to be everybody's favorite Vegeta. I'll probably put up an epilogue video. It might not have as many doodles, I'm not sure, because I think I've just about finished burning out my imagination on this idea. I've got some more D&D stuff that I want to get up online this week, and so I wanted to get a head start on this. Thanks so much for your time and following along. I really hope this gets out there. If anybody talks to MasakoX, please let him know how it all turned out, if he's not aware of it himself already. I thought it was super fun. Stay safe, have a great weekend. Thanks so much. I'm Matthew Conlon. I'll catch you back here next time.